think about, what if you're into, and at no cost to you? In today's Great Recession era, doesn't that sound incredible? Well, it was the dream of one man named Nikola Tesla. Born in Croatia in 1856, he was the son of a pastor, and was originally expected to become a member of the church, at the behest of his father, but his mother was much wiser, and she realized his true potential. It was thanks to her, that Tesla was enrolled in university. Tesla was blessed with the incredible gift of being able to design whole machines in his mind, and when he wasn't studying his other subjects, he was building his inventions of the future. Tesla was quite fond of America. Tesla's inventions needed financial backing, like most others at the time who had to turn to the big financiers. J. Pierpont Morgan was very interested. Morgan came from a rich family, and from early on, his father taught him how to manage money. The scientist pioneered many electric advancements in his time, but his dream of free energy for everyone was always in the back of his mind. Beginning in 1901, he started work on a global project of massive towers which could relay information and electricity. He constructed a 200-foot tower, which would become his test tower, in Shore, Long Island. His problem was though, that in order to obtain further funding from Morgan, he had to disclose more about where his projects were headed than he wanted to. This warned Morgan to what Tesla was doing with free energy for the masses, so in 1906 he withdrew his funding. For a top financier, the idea of millions of people across the globe getting energy for free was a nightmare. It's known that Morgan spoke to other financiers telling them of Tesla's plan, and advised them to not invest either. Tesla found himself in a terrible spot, and had to concentrate solely on inventions for which he could get paid. Soon after losing financing, his laboratory was burnt to the ground, and along with it went all of his dreams of free electricity. No one knows who exactly destroyed his laboratory, but there were many theories at the time that the investors were the culprits. Not long after that, in 1917 his experimental tower structure was also destroyed. Tesla's dream was thoroughly obliterated. Now you know the tragic story of the great inventor Nikola Tesla, and his meeting with the investor J.P. Morgan. No big business wants to give things away for free, they will halt great development if there is no profit to be made. In this case, humankind missed out on the most life-changing advances we would have ever seen. Tesla died in 1943 at the age of 87, having contributed much to our lives, but failed in giving us his most ambitious goal, his Tesla power system. It is now a reality. Many people are building their own free energy systems, and getting real energy for free to their homes. No different than 100 years ago. I'm sure the greedy electrical suppliers still do not want us to have this information, but times are different, and with the internet as powerful as it is we are finally able to access so much more. It is thought that within the next 50 years, use of Tesla free energy plans will be global. We may win in the end after all.
The inner workings of this thing get complicated fast, so we're not going to go too deep. At its most basic, a Tesla coil takes in electricity with high current and transforms it into high voltage. This creates a changing magnetic field that can induce an electric field in a nearby object, say like a light bulb. So when I bring this fluorescent bulb within range, the current excites the gas and...
Scary room to be in. It's spooky.
Right now we're wandering through what's basically an archaeological site. And what's being dug up is a lost laboratory, the last standing lab of inventor and futurist Nikola Tesla.
But I'll walk you into what is the front of his laboratory.
This lab was supposed to be the proving ground for Tesla's most ambitious idea, a wireless power and telecommunications system. He imagined the construction of a global network of towers that would electrify the world, without wires.
So this was the grandiose front door.
Okay, so clearly that didn't happen.
But this just goes on and on. It's a maze.
But the thing Tesla was chasing, ubiquitous wireless electricity, physicists and engineers are still chasing it today, and making tantalizing progress. So was Tesla onto something here? It's been more than 100 years since Tesla's efforts at Wardenclyffe. Yet when it comes to electricity, we still live in a profoundly wired world. That universal blanket of power that Tesla envisioned still hasn't arrived. Why? Well, one reason is that our technology has changed, but the behavior of electric and magnetic fields hasn't.
In terms of power, and transport distance, I think that we are limited by physics. Now, physics can change. We don't know. But at this moment, no.
Chris Mee researches wireless power at San Diego State. He says that while we're stuck with the laws of physics, upgrades in materials and other technology has led to real progress. One result is the wireless cell phone charger. There's been a bunch of development around beaming energy using ultrasound, microwaves, or lasers. Chris thinks these techniques have merit, but largely for low-power applications. Efficiency is the boogeyman here, because energy is wasted in its translation from one carrier to another.
Considering the efficiency of this microwave through air with a long distance, and if you want to receive hundreds of kilowatts, you'll be needing megawatts of power at the transport station, and you will be generating a huge amount of loss, which becomes some sort of heat.
Robert and I took a road trip to Milford, Texas a few weeks ago to take 4K video of the Visiv Technologies Wardenclyffe Tower resurrection. For those of you who didn't know about the Wardenclyffe Tower, it was a device designed and built by Nikola Tesla in Shoreham, New York in 1901. The tower was designed for wireless power transmission. Tesla had already demonstrated wireless power transmission using small-scale models. The tower was more than half completed when the project's primary backer, financier J.P. Morgan, pulled the funds when he realized that people could tap into and use the wireless electricity without having to pay. Morgan wanted something that had a meter on it so customers could be charged. Additional investment could not be found, and the project was abandoned in 1906, never to become operational. In an attempt to satisfy Tesla's debts, the tower was demolished for scrap in 1917 and the property taken in foreclosure in 1922. On January 7, 1943, at the age of 86, Tesla died alone in room 3327 of the New Yorker Hotel. 2 days later, the Federal Bureau of Investigation seized Tesla's belongings. John G. Trump, that's President Donald Trump's uncle, a professor at MIT and well-known electrical engineer serving as a technical aide to the National Defense Research Committee, was called in to analyze Tesla's items, which were being held in FBI custody. In 2016, the FBI finally declassified 250 pages of Tesla's related documents. They were heavily redacted, of course. This had to be done under the Federal Freedom of Information Act. The Bureau followed up with 2 additional releases, the latest being in March of 2018. I suspect that Visiv is using the released technical documents as the basis for their design and patents. Visiv Technologies says they have developed a system of patent-pending processes and equipment to efficiently launch a Xenix surface wave that allows the Earth itself to be used as a clean, safe, and efficient transfer for power between any 2 points on the globe wirelessly. We drove south on Interstate Highway 35 from Dallas to Milford, Texas. Surprisingly, the Visiv Tower is right on the interstate highway. You would expect a secretive operation like this would be in another location unless there was a geographic reason for this specific location. It was on the left, and we could see the tower guard stations and other buildings, the main tower, and assorted large resonance tuning and shunt structures. Here's a satellite photograph that was taken while the facility was under construction. It shows the tower base and metal structure components. We parked on Dale Acres Road just north of the Visiv facility and began taking 4K footage of the tower and other structures. Almost immediately, a guard truck exited the facility and headed toward us and parked in a position where the view from the camera was blocked. The guard exited the vehicle and said, "Stop filming immediately. You are not allowed to take photos of or video of this facility." I had that the facility was actually part of the U.S. government. I decided to go ahead and leave. At about a half a mile away and in the middle of a field where there should be no signals of any type. Point it this way. It's getting high. It's just picking up from a side angle here. Point it at the tower. Point it at the tower, it gets real high. Away from the tower, gets real low. Point it toward the tower. High. Away from the tower. low, and then swing back up to the tower. Zoom in and get the top of the tower. Out in the middle of this field, we were finding signal strengths equivalent to that of being next to a strong Wi-Fi router. This is not what I would have expected from a Xenic surface wave transmitter. According to Visiv, a Xenic surface wave is an electromagnetic wave that uses the surface of the Earth as a waveguide, enabling it to carry communications signals or electrical power efficiently over long distances. This wireless power system would employ a transmitter probe located near a power generating plant to launch the Xenic carrier wave. The receiving antenna would be positioned appropriately around the world to receive the signal and download the power to a local microgrid or conventional grid architecture. This system might be very important in the event of an EMP for emergency power to keep food and water supplies operational. In that event, it could save millions of lives. You might be wondering who Jonathan Zinnik is. Well, he was one of the first known scientists to study electromagnetic propagation over the surface of the Earth. With Xenic surface waves, electrical power is directed along the Earth's surface in much the same way that electrical power is directed through conventional transmission lines using electromagnetic waves. According to Visiv, the power transfer is safe and secure. They focus on two key factors, the potential for shock and local RF field strengths. Visiv surface waves meet the most stringent standards for both. They point out that Xenic surface waves don't deliver a shock for the same reason radio stations don't shock you. To create a shock, there must be a difference in potential. They also mention that the Federal Communications Commission, FCC, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, and the American National Standards Institute, ANSI, have strict guidelines for RF exposure levels. These standards have been in place for decades. Those limits are more than 10 times what will be produced by a commercial Visiv surface wave system. In a sense, that's concerning because many of those standards are outdated and not related to newer technologies. They do not take into account the 24/7, 365 continuous total Earth surface exposure of an operational Visiv field and what that would do to life forms and other parts of the ecosystem. And what if a terrestrial object or structure acted as an antenna that was resonant to the Visiv field and concentrated power at that location? Typically, when talking about RF radiation dangers to life forms, scientists divide the radiation into two forms, ionizing and non-ionizing radiation. Non-ionizing is generally considered safe. According to Wikipedia, non-ionizing radiation refers to any type of electromagnetic radiation that does not carry enough energy to ionize atoms or molecules. That is, to completely remove an electron from an atom or molecule, instead of producing charged ions when passing through matter. Non-ionizing electromagnetic radiation has sufficient energy for excitation of the electrons, but not the movement of the electron from a shell or orbit of an atom. Ionizing radiation, which has a higher frequency and shorter wavelength, can be a health hazard. Exposure to that can cause burns, radiation, sickness, cancer, genetic damage. Generally, if it doesn't cause free electrons or heat, it's considered safe. Unfortunately, there are indications that that theory isn't holding true. With even low-level cell phone radiation, brain surgeons are already noticing a real increase in brain tumors near the areas of the brain where cell phone radiation is concentrated. And human blood cells tend to stick together when exposed to cell phone and Wi-Fi microwave radiation. Also, interestingly, men who keep cell phones in their pants pocket also have an approximately 50% drop in sperm cell count. So the safety of a total Earth surface exposure of an operational Visiv field is unknown. There have been no small-scale safety tests on life forms as far as I know. Sometimes the simplest things can cause a biotic crisis. VLTV, another YouTube channel, has brought up some interesting information regarding the National High-Resolution Reflectivity Composite Map of the United States, showing some abnormal T's coming out of Milford, Texas. Visiv has filed for many patents, including flexible network topology and bidirectional power flow, hybrid guided surface wave communication, guided surface wave transmission of multiple frequencies in a lossy media. Now let's take a look at what this means. Okay, it says you're sending multiple frequencies and power across the lossy media.